what do we have, Adam?
We have power from the crowd. And this one is, actually, I've just learned something new myself, because we had centralized, distributed on one side and decentralized in the middle. I was going to introduce this about decentralized, but actually it's more exciting that we've got distributed, as we saw on that diagram earlier in that presentation. Because that's when communities use a combination of the renewable energy sources and the localized energy grids. Now, something that many people think that this is really complex, and there's not many communities that have done this, and actually, the reality is that these have been successfully running around the world for 10, even 20 years. And so I'm really looking forward to this talk, because hopefully it can expel some myths that this is a difficult thing to do. Actually, it's a great way of providing an answer to the climate problem we've got, and also to empower those communities.
Great. Well, I'd like to welcome Frank Vermeulen and Nicolas Verstraete from Ecoyo. Welcome to the stage. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, good morning. I'm Frank Vermeulen, co-founder of Ecoyo, and happy to give you a story today.
Yeah, and I'm Nicolas.
Good morning, good afternoon. The world is changing. More and more today, people act in an ecological conscious way. In Belgium, 70% of the people are prepared to pay to buy goods that are ecological meaningful. You have today the film of the man. You have the film Before the Flood of Leonardo DiCaprio. They attract many, many people. You have movements, Colibri, Good Planet, The Shift. People really want to act today for a better, a sustainable world. People want to do something.
And the world is changing also because technology is taking more and more place in our daily life. You wake up with technology, you live with technology, you spend many hours on Google, on Facebook, and so on. So this technology can be used to improve our daily life, but also to improve the environment.
The world is changing also because you are here. You are here because you believe that the power can come from the crowd, from you and me. You see many, many exchange platforms, peer-to-peer, appearing. Airbnb, Uber, BlaBlaCar.
And so you could think that this could be applied as well on the energy sector. Would it be possible to take these three elements, being environmental, technology, and peer-to-peer, and to apply it to the energy sector? The answer is not really clear. It's between yes and no.
Yes. Yes, because today the technology is already there. You know that, for instance, you have the famous Tesla house, where the buildings are integrated, where the building becomes the power source, but also in Belgium, you have an amazing company, iSol, that really creates a building that generates the power. It's not longer the panel, but it's the building in its entirety. So it means that the system is changing. The system is changing from a centralized system, outside in, from the big plants to the small computers. No, it's now going inside out. It's going from the house, from the people, to the neighbors, and then to the rest of the world.
And it's changing because people start to invest in those technologies, invest in solar panels, makes cooperative to invest in windmills. You know that in Belgium, for example, 50% of the people have a green electricity contract. But who knows where this green electricity is coming from according to the regulator? Any idea? Maybe you know where the bottle of wine you drink yesterday evening is coming from, but you don't know where the power is coming from. So according to the regulator, one of the main sources of green electricity in Belgium is a geothermal plant in Iceland. I still don't know how they can bring green power from Iceland to Belgium, but that's one of the main sources of green electricity in Belgium.
But also there is a no. There is a no. There are big barriers to really start sourcing power from the crowd. It's not so easy to find workarounds as Uber did, for instance. No, there are barriers. I would like to highlight some of them. And it starts with the grid. The grid is today a monopoly. And it means that for the consumer, a large part of its electricity bill is just to pay a monopoly. And this is an issue. Our electricity bill is a legacy of the past. And that's what we want to explore. Let's take a step back in history, 20 years ago. What was the situation? There was a central body in almost all countries that defined in its own wisdom how the generation mix should look like. Then it ordered the utilities to make to realize that investment plan, and they were remunerated in a cost-plus approach. Those utilities were vertically integrated from generation, this transmission, distribution, up to the commercial supply. And on top of that, they had monopoly situations when they sell the electricity to often municipalities. What was the result of that? Fat cats. The system was too expensive, there was too much money going to the big utilities, and the consumer had to pay too much 20 years ago.
And so Europe introduced the liberalization of the electricity market with, on one side, the production, which has been liberalized, meaning that you don't have anymore this national plan in investment, but each company decides how to invest. And on the opposite, with the consuming, which is also liberalized. And in between the two, you still have one unique grid, which is followed by a regulator and needs to be paid by the utility bill. On top of that, you have all the subsidies which have been put in place in order to reach the 2020 targets or any other targets. And now we see that those subsidies still need to be paid by the consumers as well.
So the world is changing now. You have an electricity bill which is composed for the consumer to remunerate a new monopoly, the monopoly of the DSO, on top of the levies, the legacy of the past to pay the policy they made, which is for reasons. But on top of that, you have now, the world is changing. PV panels become profitable for small consumers to install them to avoid the costs of the grid. To avoid, the profitability is driven by avoiding the grid costs. It's called grid parity. Now, DSOs don't like it, regulators don't like it because people are evading costs of the past. But that's the economics of today. But on top of that, you have a policy. For instance, zero energy buildings. They are pushed by a new policy to have by 2020 this as the standard. What does it mean, a zero energy building? A zero energy building means that you do not consume energy seen over an entire period of the year. It means that you can produce power in the winter or in the summer and can draw power from the grid at another point of the year. It means that also that the most cost-efficient way to go to a zero energy building is to install renewable energy. So people are even pushed to install new renewable energies. And it is not in line with what the electricity bill of today is doing. Why? I am installing a PV panel. And I want to sell my electricity to my neighbor. He lives 20 meters from me. If I sell the electricity to my neighbor, he has to pay the electricity, of course, the commodity cost, and he has to pay as if the power came from Norway, from a nuclear plant, from everywhere in the system. He cannot pay a local price for its electricity, which is a problem. Because he cannot get the benefits of local energy supply. Because the electricity bill is still the old legacy of the past. It means that we have to change the electricity bill to stimulate the crowdsourcing, to stimulate sourcing from the crowd, to have local investment signals, the right signal for the right product.
And even connecting a new installation to the grid could be an issue. Let's take an example. I'm living in an apartment. We have in a building, we have 5 apartments, and we decided together to put solar PV on the roof. We invest together in those solar PV, so we contact the DSO, and what's the answer we got? Okay, but you are at the end of the line, so it will be difficult to connect you, will be disconnected due to the change in tension and so on. So you have to reduce the installation. Why? Another issue is that we cannot buy back the power from the solar panel we have on the roof for our apartments. We have to sell it back to the grid, and we have, as Frank just explained, to buy back the power from the grid. So even in a single building, you cannot build kind of microgrid.
And it's not the end of the story. You have consumer protection, of course. consumer protection is very important. But some of those consumer protections you can question because they are maybe also a legacy of the past. For instance, the consumer protection has rules that protect the small consumer against the big bad utility. Now, one of those rules, just to name one, is switching. A consumer can switch every month from one supplier to another supplier. That is it's a very nice and good solution for a centralized system. But if we imagine the case where you are in a neighborhood and there is a wasteland, and in that wasteland, you can put some PV panels or maybe a small wind turbine or whatever of renewable energy to serve the energy, the electricity of the neighborhood. Okay, you need some financing, but not all members of the neighborhood have the financial means to put up capex for the financial investments. But they are prepared, they are willing to buy electricity from those plants, maybe for a 5-year period, a 6-year period, whatever, for a longer time period. They are not allowed to do so, or the investors or the bonds, the people who are prepared to pre-finance this solution, have no protection because every month, the month later after the signature, the consumer can go away and can say, okay, I don't care, I go somewhere else. There are no incentives to commonly in a citizen and a societal approach to launch from the bottom up investment projects. The instruments are lacking.
Okay, but Frank, I think we complained enough now. We see also quite good initiatives ongoing. So, for example, in the Netherlands, you can now you have incentive to buy electricity which is locally produced, which is not far from your home. In France, we see same kind of initiative. In Germany, they are building policy so that you can buy power from your own building. So that's going in the right direction. If we take the example of the rollout of the smart meter, here it's a map. You see still in Europe plenty of green countries, meaning that they are doing this rollout of smart meters. And those smart meters will allow us to incentivize people to buy power and to consume power when it's produced.
No, why you should then you say, okay, we start Ecoyo, it's a hopeless case. No, it's not hopeless. We want to act, we want to start, we want to trigger, start creating a movement or a new initiatives in order to move to the crowdsourcing. Because regulation will only change if people ask for it, if all of us start asking the right questions to the regulators. And that's what we want to achieve. Create awareness with our company. We want to create a new offer in the market that is built upon creating awareness to people that they can act already today to make a difference with the electricity contract. When we talked a lot with people, and when we talk, what do you do for a better world or for sustainable living? They say, okay, I avoid waste, I go with bike or with public transportation, I even eat biological food. But none of them mentioned spontaneously, okay, I buy proactively an electricity that makes a difference to go for a renewable contract. And that's the problem. People are not yet asking to the regulators the change to go to crowdsourcing. And that's what we want to do. We want to create awareness by making a product that incentivizes people to consume better with local generated electricity they can choose, to use better and less, because we think it's important that first people have to reduce their consumption, because everything that is not consumed has not to be generated. We give a lot of tips of the day, innovative products to reduce your consumption on one hand, without hassle, that people don't have to think that we have a trustworthy solution, and at the same time, they act for a better world by a dedicated offer.
And so why would they choose for Ecoyo? Because they can select their own source and they can choose the producer which is producing their own electricity and are even paying a fair price to that producer. Now, when we talk to people, most of them are telling, okay, for my electricity, I just want the cheapest. But no, we want to put back the right value of the electricity produced in Belgium, produced locally, not produced by this geothermal plant in Iceland. And on top of that, we want to stimulate the investment in renewables in Belgium and maybe out of Belgium by reinvesting part of our margin in new contracts for example, a school wants to put PV on their roof and just lacking a bit of money to make this project break even. So if we take back the question of the beginning, would it be possible to combine environmental friendly technology and peer-to-peer in order to make in the energy sector? That's what we try to do with Ecoyo. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll probably open one question. Gentleman, right there. You have a microphone.
Hi. I just wanted to ask you, you said about zero, how do you say, zero carbon buildings, zero energy. Assuming that building is not made of any concrete or cement, because concrete, I mean, I see a lot of green buildings, inverted commas in the UK, but they've still got concrete and cement. And concrete cement chucks out a lot of water. So my question is whatever the definition of the green energy building is, are we still using the same materials that we've been using for a long time? And how, I mean, I don't really see anything as zero energy because still trying to strive towards it, but what are the materials that are being used in these proposed zero energy buildings, and how sustainable really are they?
So first and for all, I'm not fully the specialist of zero energy buildings as such, so maybe somebody else in the room is better placed to answer this question. Somebody in the back I see.
Hello, I'm not directly, I actually work for a building services company in the UK, and we look at, I guess it is a responsible sourcing of different types of concrete. There are certain less carbon consumptive concrete options and cement options, which they try and use. So I think they try and do carbon offset as a priority for using energy-intensive building materials.
All right.
The point we just want to make is that there is room for the owner or the one who wants to build a zero energy building to have different measures to achieve the aim. As you can go to a no passive house to other houses. And the economics of today are just such that installing renewable energy is one means to reach it amongst others.
Great. We're running out of time. Thank you very much. And here's the little token. Great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks.